Good evening to you. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host tonight, Shantae Charles. I hope that you all are having a great and wonderful day. I am trying to catch my breath because I just got out of a class and had to run to get on tonight. But thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you to those who are catching the replays and sharing your love and your support of what we do on this platform. I really do appreciate it. For those of you who are not on my other platforms and you have reached out to me to ask about how to support this broadcast, one way that you can support what we do on a monthly basis is by joining our Patreon family at patreon.com, patreon.com/ Daring Dialogues. You can sign up and you will receive personal messages from me. You'll receive a community of believers who are gathered together to do uplifting things in our community, both locally and globally. And you will be a part of what we're doing outside of the social media platform. If you just want to just drop a tip and say, hey, thank you for showing up online and sharing information and just good motivational things, you can always drop a tip at my Cash App, which is $Life Nation, and just put Daring Dialogues in the comment section, and I'll know it was from you as a listener. All right, it is the continuation of our Women's History Month series, and we have been looking at Black women who have been boundary breaking, bar raising, world changing women, and that is not going to change. I do want to thank you all for allowing me to take yesterday off. I had a unfortunate experience with some food poisoning, and it kind of took me out for a bit, and so I had to make sure that everything was okay with myself bodily, but I'm back at it. As they say, I'm back on the saddle. And tonight we are going to take a look at a young lady by the name of Shirley Franklin. We've got more than one Shirley in this book. I'm going to take one look at a young lady by the name of Shirley Franklin, and then another young lady by the name of Abby Lincoln. Shirley Franklin and Abby Lincoln. I have been trying to get us to take a look at and read maybe some unfamiliar women this month. We do know, Harriet Tubman, Ida B. Wells, Fannie Lou Hamer, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman. But I also have been trying to expose us to more women that we might not be as familiar with. So tonight we're starting with a young lady by the name of Shirley Franklin. And this is the illustrated image of her. And let's get down to it. As an 18-year-old college freshman, Shirley Clark went to the 1963 March on Washington in the nation's capital with her mother, aunts, and cousins. This pivotal event in the civil rights movement became one of the most memorable experiences of her youth. Shirley's family walked with hundreds of thousands of people who shared the same concerns for the well-being of all Americans, particularly African Americans who were still fighting for legal equality and justice. Shirley was moved by the profound messages of the march, especially by the words of Martin Luther King Jr., who delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech that day. King said, "I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers." Like so many others who heard those words, Shirley was touched and motivated. Born in 1945 in Philadelphia, she received an undergraduate degree in sociology from Howard University and a master's degree in sociology from the University of Pennsylvania. Then Shirley was pulled south by a teaching job. She spent nearly 10 years as a political science professor at Talladega College in Alabama before moving to Atlanta. She married a man from there who shared her interest in politics and social justice, David Mccoy Franklin, who joined the firm with another dynamic young lawyer named Maynard Jackson. Shirley and David raised 3 children while encouraging local African Americans to go into business and to become active in politics. In fact, David helped Maynard get elected as Atlanta's first black mayor in 1973. A few years later, Mayor Jackson appointed Shirley as the director of the city's Bureau of Cultural Affairs. Shirley made a great contribution to the city, and her role in administration grew. She became the commissioner of the Department of Cultural Affairs, a cabinet position in the administration. Mayor Jackson got credit for expanding opportunities for women and black people across the city. His administration pushed for laws requiring government officials to hire minority professionals. It also commissioned the work of minority artists and gave them grants. After serving for 8 years, he could not run again in 1981. Term limits allow only 2 back-to-back terms. So Shirley stayed on to work as the chief administrative officer for the next mayor, Andrew Young. Mayor Jackson ran again in 1989, and Shirley was by his side during his 3rd term, this time as the executive officer of operations. She credits these 2 prior mayors for inspiring her, saying, "They taught me how to be a leader, to follow my conscience, to act with foresight and courage." And she says they convinced her to run for office. In 2002, Shirley became the 58th mayor of Atlanta, the city where Martin Luther King Jr. was born and made his home. She was the first black female mayor of a major southern city. 3 years after she took office, Time magazine named Shirley one of the 5 best big city mayors. It credited her with restoring the city's faith in its government after the troubled tenure of Mayor Bill Campbell, who preceded her. She worked with the city council to establish a new code of ethics for city employees. She convinced 75 non-government firms to conduct studies of how the city spent its money, how it developed roads, facilities, and systems, and how it could solve the problem of homelessness. And she convinced many of them to offer their expert suggestions at no cost to the city. She demonstrated how resources outside of government could be used by the government. During her 2 terms in office, Shirley enacted much-needed reforms and tackled serious budget shortfalls head-on. She streamlined the court system to save money and improve the general operations of the courts. And she led the efforts to overhaul the city's sewer system so sewage would no longer flow into the city's rivers during heavy rains. Shirley's accomplishments earned her recognition by the John F. Kennedy Library Foundation, which gave her their 2005 Profile and Courage Award. This was a first for a mayor in office, male or female. In her acceptance speech, she explained, "The city faced a 20% budget gap, a dilapidated and underfunded water and sewer system, hundreds of dispirited employees. But with hard work and persistence, we balanced the budget and funded the $3 billion water infrastructure." Shirley is a role model, inspiration, and advisor to a new generation of women, particularly in business and politics. She speaks and teaches on campuses and advises executives. And to this day, she draws on the inspiration of Martin, saying that his life and his death are a lesson in respecting the dignity of every living being. She is the executive chairman of the board of directors of Purpose Built Communities, a nonprofit involved in providing early childhood education and mixed income housing so that people who have less will not be stuck in struggling neighborhoods. She was also the co-chair of the Democratic National Convention's 2016 Platform Committee, working on what she described as a bold vision for working families, social justice, and continuing prosperity and security of our country. Things that she has said. Every generation makes a mark on history. As an African American female mayor of a major U.S. city, I am evidence that while progress may not always be swift, it is possible. My mother was a teacher, and she instilled in me that one of the most important assets in life is an education. Before Shirley Franklin, there was Sharon Pratt Kelly. She was the first Black woman to lead a big American city and served as mayor of Washington, D.C. from 1991 to 1995. Ladies and gentlemen, Shirley Franklin. Our next read for tonight is Abby Lincoln. Abby Lincoln was born Anna Marie Woodbridge to a big family in Chicago in 1930 during the Great Depression. This national economic crisis left people struggling to meet basic needs. Abby's parents were industrious and resilient people, but the family didn't have much. Her father built the house they lived in, and later he built the family a home near Kalamazoo, Michigan, where they moved when Abby was a small child. There was a piano in the house, she recalled, and when I was near to 5 years of age, I started to experiment with the piano because there were so many people in the house. We didn't have any privacy, but I could find that at the piano, privacy and some serenity. No matter where the family lived, music and a piano were ever present. And this is a illustrated image of Abby. As a teen, Abby sang in her school's band. When she was 20, her brother took her to California, where she eventually began to sing in nightclubs in San Diego. She then found an agent who sent her to perform in Hawaii. The gorgeous Pacific Island had military bases and a vibrant club scene that kept soldiers and their families entertained and talented young singers employed. When she returned to California 2 years later, she began performing at clubs like the Moulin Rouge in Los Angeles. She wore an elegant long gown and used a stage name, Gabby Wooldridge. Later, she went by Gabby Lee. I was becoming a glamorous woman, she recalled. She was making a living on her own with her music, but she wanted more. Abby found that she needed someone to help her book new gigs, build her profile, and manage her money. She soon found herself a manager, and one of the things he suggested was that she choose a better stage name. About her potential new last name, she recalled him grinning and saying to her, "Since Abraham Lincoln didn't free the slaves, maybe you can handle it." She agreed to the name change and made her first recording as with the saxophonist and band leader Benny Carter as Abby Lincoln. The music of the 1950s is remembered for the many talented African Americans who played jazz, which some people considered America's only original art form. Abby absorbed and built on the traditions of musicians who came before her. I sing in the tradition of Billie Holiday, Sarah Vaughan, Dinah Washington, and Ella Fitzgerald. She grew up listening to these artists who were great storytellers. They provided her with the foundation for creating her own original music. I just sing about my life. Abby wrote a song called Throw It Away after reading the I Ching, a book used as a tool to divine the future and to gain self-insight. One of the book's messages is that you can't lose in life what is rightfully yours. Abby brought passion and depth to her music, including songs like The People in Me and A Circle of Love, which are about the connection people have to each other across nationality, race, and ethnicity, and the possibility of peace and harmony among humans. She also wrote personal songs like a tribute to her father and a tribute to her mother. Her work included beloved songs like The World is Falling Down, The Music is the Magic, and many others that came from a spiritual, honest, loving place. During her marriage to percussionist Max Roach, and for a brief period afterward, Abby stepped away from recording. In 1972, 2 years after their divorce, she traveled to Africa, an inevitable part of her journey. There she was met with respect as a descendant, an artist, and an activist. While visiting Guinea and Zaire, now known as the Democratic Republic of Congo, she was even given two new names, which she combined into one, Aminata Moseka, and treasured for the rest of her life. After her return to the United States, Abby was back in the studio full force, beginning with her 1973 release, The People in Me. Abby believed in the power of art to carry a moving message and affirm people's humanity. She especially believed in the artistic genius found in Black people, and she understood the power of images to build up or break down people's spirits. So she chose to wear an afro in an era when Black women were made to feel ashamed about their hair. I felt beautiful and whole when I started to wear my natural hair, she has said. She is regarded by many as a great beauty. She appeared on the cover of magazines but said, "I wasn't raised to believe that being what you look like was supposed to mean anything. Mama always taught us that pretty is as pretty does." Revolution as art. Abby Lincoln recorded "We Insist," Max Roach's Freedom Now Suite, written by Max Roach and singer and songwriter Oscar Brown Jr. The album told the story of the African American experience, the triumphs and tragedies. Released in 1960, it is one of the most famous jazz albums ever recorded, not only because the music was innovative, but also because it demonstrated the power of art. And finally, Abby had this to say: "I gravitate to songs that help me to live, because if you sing something over and over, you say something over and over, and if you set it to music, it really is a prayer. It goes up into the atmosphere and it will bring you the return of what you've been saying." Come on and preach, Abby, preach. All right. Finally, we have two short biographies tonight. One on Katherine Johnson and one on Henrietta Lacks. Why Katherine Johnson? Because she provided the math to put Americans in space. And of course, we know that she is featured in the film Hidden Figures. Katherine Johnson, mathematician and physicist, who lived from 1918 to 2020. By fourth grade, every American kid has studied the history of this country's space missions, especially the story of astronaut John Glenn, who became the first American to orbit the Earth in 1962. But for a very long time, one nugget was missing from that history: the Black woman who helped him safely get there and get back. Katherine Johnson was a physicist and mathematician, one of many Black women hired by NASA in the early 1950s to work in the Guidance and Navigation Department. She was a math prodigy who graduated from high school at 14 and earned a double degree in math and French from West Virginia State College by 18. And she helped to integrate the graduate school at West Virginia University, where she was one of 3 Black students and the only Black woman. At NASA, Johnson was plucked from the pool of women working on math calculations to work with an all-male flight research team. Besides her work on Glenn's famous flight, she also helped launch the use of computers at the Space Agency and helped calculate the orbit for the 1969 Apollo 11 flight to the moon. Johnson co-authored 26 scientific papers in her career at NASA. In 2015, then President Barack Obama awarded Johnson the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her pioneering work. And the next year, her story was told in grand Hollywood fashion in the movie Hidden Figures. Taraji P. Henson played the role of Johnson and brought to life a story that many of us never knew existed. I am so glad that Katherine Johnson lived to receive her flowers, because she certainly deserved them. Now, Henrietta Lacks. Why? Because she was the subject of a medical experiment that is still saving lives today. Her body, her cells, the never-dying cells of Henrietta Lacks, or HeLa cells, are still saving lives today. HeLa cell line. Henrietta Lacks lived from 1920 to 1951. She was only 31 years old when she passed. She was an accidental pioneer of modern-day medicine. Well, we know it was no accident, but she was certainly an exploited, I think that would be the better word, an exploited pioneer of modern-day medicine. She was 31 years old and had 5 children when she was diagnosed with cervical cancer. Just months before her death, doctors at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore took pieces of tissue from her cancerous tumor without her consent. Because of what happened with Henrietta Lacks, now this is why we even have medical consent forms for people to sign. And you don't have to sign those consent forms as they are written. You can actually make edits to them and sign your initials by the edits that you make before you sign a consent form. Just thought I would throw that out there. Lax was not a slave, but parts of her cancerous tumor represent the first isolated human cells ever bought and sold. Her cells, known among scientists as HeLa, were unusual in that they could rapidly reproduce and stay alive long enough to undergo multiple tests. Hello. Descendants of Lax cells live in laboratories across the world and are worth billions of dollars. They played an important part in developing the polio vaccine. They have played an important part in cloning. They have played an important part in gene mapping. And they have also played an important part in vitro fertilization. Without her cells, we would not have any of these medical advances. The HeLa cell line has been used to develop drugs for treating herpes, leukemia, influenza, and even Parkinson's disease. The cells have been influential in the study of cancer, lactose digestion, sexually transmitted diseases, and even appendicitis. While scientists knew her name, for many years her own family did not know how her cells were being used or that billions of dollars had been made because of those experiments. They still have not paid her family anything. It wasn't until a writer named Rebecca Skloot started a book about Lax and the HeLa cell line that the public learned what had happened and how little her husband and children knew about her legacy that had been hidden and cloaked under two words, HeLa. Her cells are saving lives today, but no doctor can be proud of how Lax was treated, and certainly this country cannot be proud of how her ancestry continues to not be compensated, even though the world has been compensated through her life and her physical body and cells. Let's fix that, world. I think everybody would agree with that. That needs to be fixed. That needs to be addressed. That needs to be adjusted. So here, where I live in Maryland and surrounding areas, her family is still in this area. Johns Hopkins University is a part of this history as well. And every year now, her family actually does a commemoration of her and just the legacy that she has that now has been made known to the public. All right. So that is what I wanted to share tonight. I hope you've enjoyed learning about these different women. And if you already knew them, that's great. Pass this video on to someone who may not know about these wonderful, incredible women and their contributions to our society. If you would like to come on and join me for some brief conversation tonight, please feel free to hit the camera on IG and I'll bring you on for conversation. If you're joining me tonight on YouTube, I want to thank you for tuning in and you'll be able to listen to our conversation. And if you are joining me by Anchor, I want to say thank you for your time and attention and for listening in tonight as we have this discussion. Dun, 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 dun. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Guys? I'm doing good. How are you all?
I'm feeling much better.
How was Robert?
How is Robert?
Yeah.
I put him to sleep about 2 hours ago.
All right. Good. It's taken care of.
Yes.
3 of these women, I pretty much basically know about. That's well, no, not really. Shirley Clark, I heard a little about her. But Anna Lincoln, I knew absolutely nothing about. Katherine Johnson, knew about her. Henrietta Lacks, we discussed her. But I want to go to Shirley Clark because she embodies so much of what we've been talking about women leading and
Shirley
things
Franklin.
like that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right, Shirley Franklin. Um, so I mean, when you think about what she went through, one guy took her in, under his wings, and
Mm-hmm.
and he gave her the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Then he spoke up for women,
Mm-hmm.
which many men don't like. But he spoke up for women. And then when he couldn't run again, somebody else ran. Then when when they were done, somebody else was in there. They encouraged her to run, and she ran. First female mayor of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
The first woman to receive an award.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first mayor.
Yeah, first mayor, yeah. Male or female, yeah.
Yeah, but women can't lead. And she turned Atlanta around. But women can't lead.
But listen, that's the part that gets me, because a lot of people talk about Andrew Young. Like, I always hear his name,
Mm-hmm.
but it was her programs that was really reshaping the city.
Mm-hmm.
And getting the water together and dealing with the sewage problem. Basically, it was like she took on the dirty work of the job.
Mm-hmm.
And balanced the budget and got the city, kind of where it needed to be. So now when you see everybody, flocking to Atlanta, you can thank Shirley Franklin for part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I like the fact that they encouraged her to run, because even though she was in the background, like doing administrative pieces, they encouraged her to run because she had seen how the city was operating under different people. So it wasn't just like, okay, we want you to run because you're a woman, right?
Right.
No, we want you to run because you understand how this thing operates, and you can get in there and get the job done, because our terms are up, but you understand what needs to be implemented in order for the city to be successful. And that's what I like. I like the fact that they didn't look over her to see who else they could choose, like a lot of people do. It's like, this person has been in your administration. They've seen your success. They know the things that need to be done. You can say to that person, you can say, hey, I think that you can take the lead now, because you've been there. You've seen how things are running, and you know what needs to be improved. Listen, I've been wanting to talk about this for I would say 24 hours now. It's something that's on my mind, and I would say it's a part of this whole conversation about leadership and mentorship and really appreciating the people that's with you. There is this weird flex. The words that keep coming to my mind is weird flex. There's this weird flex going on, and I don't know why. And I don't know if you've had this happen to you, but it's been happening to me a couple of times in the past week. And I'm just like, what is this? I call it a weird flex. There's this weird flex where people will tag you, right? They'll tag you in something they're doing, or they'll tag you in an announcement where they're like thanking all of these different people, right? They're just thanking the people, and they're tagging the people they're thanking, but you're not in who they're thanking. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if that's just me, but I think that's a weird flex to like tag people and then thank other people besides the people you're tagging. Like, I'm trying to figure out, why am I being tagged if I'm not being thanked?
I agree. Since you put it that way, I gotta agree. That's a flex.
Yeah, it's a flex. But I was like, okay, okay, this is great
This
that you're
happened to
doing
me.
well, but why am I being tagged in it?
Right. This happened to me, but not regularly.
Oh no, this has happened to me several times. And I'm reading the post, like trying to get to the point of the post, and I'm like, okay, okay. I mean, I congratulate people. That's not it. I'm just wondering, why are you tagging me in it? Why are you tagging me in it? Now,
Mm-hmm.
I could say, maybe you should be thanking me.
Yep. Using your name.
um, no, I'm just wondering what that's about, and if anybody is having that similar experience where you're being tagged in something and it's a celebratory post and you're like, okay, this is great, but why am I being tagged in it? I'm just wondering. Hello,
Good question.
Doc Holiday. Hello.
Doc Holliday, that's our firearms instructor.
All right.
Speaking of women, about 99%, probably more than 99%, his clients are women.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, as we talk about Women's History Month, there is another thing I want to bring up. Women's safety. Women's safety. I recently found a public, they say it's a public country club style gun range in my area. And I'm thinking about visiting it. I may have to tag Lady Shantae and see if she would want to go maybe check it out with me, because I'm probably not going to go into a gun range by myself. Just because I'm a black woman by myself going to a gun range, I mean, in my area where I live, that's just not a good thing. That's just, you don't want to do that. So I do need to go with someone, but I really want to check out this gun range because it is, I looked at some of the pictures of it. It's kind of got like weapons available there for purchase. They've got artillery. They have separate private firing range rooms, I'm guessing, that are like sound booth, soundproof style.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have a whole cafe inside. And I was like, coffee and guns? Let's check it out. I'm like, listen, coffee and guns. I think this might be able to work. And then I looked, and they also have self-defense classes too at the same at the same place. And then they also have a pool table. So I was like, man, billiards is my favorite thing, coffee and self-defense training and weapons training all in one place. Ladies. So if anybody is in the Baltimore City, Baltimore County region, and you want to check out this gun range, it's called Guntry, Guntry. And you can also look them up online. But I did notice that they had lots of African American instructors doing the weapons trainings and also the self-defense training. So that's kind of really what interested me. And I have been driving by it, just kind of seeing what the atmosphere is. There's quite a few officers that are there during the day. So again, I don't, I don't see myself going there by myself when officers are training, because then I don't want to be the subject of a training. I'm just a little, wary about that part. But if I happen to see that there are no officers there, well, at least not 5 to 10 cars lined up at one time, I might stop in and do some live filming if they'll let me do some live filming just to see what's inside and what they have to offer. Because I do think that women do need to learn how to protect themselves.
Yes.
I think that is super important. So as we talk about Women's History Month, I do want to encourage women to not be afraid to learn how to use a firearm, not be afraid to take self-defense classes, and be able to protect yourself in this day and age. And Pastor Ben, I know you do some defense training, correct? Or weapons training?
I usually work with Doc Holliday.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to have Doc Holliday maybe come on sometime, maybe next month. I know we are kind of getting to the end of our season here, but it would be good to just have someone to come on and share about what's out there, what's available in terms of women's self-defense, and just some offering some safety and some pointers around that. I think that would be good.
And I'm gonna say this. I've seen some of the men students come in, and women pick up a whole lot faster.
Hmm.
It's like they learn a lot faster. Well, I may have been one of the exceptions.
Do you think that might be because we kind of have to?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And
Like we gotta get it, because for us it could be more of a imminent danger, or a sense of imminent danger, in like, I've got to know this, I got to get this down.
And women don't have the ego that men have either, for the most part. Most men come in like, I know how to do this.
Oh, okay.
And you're doing it all wrong.
Got
You're doing it all wrong. Women come in, I want to learn. Whether they've handled one before or not. They come in and, hey, look, I want to learn. I want to know this. Okay, he said he would love to come on live. Okay.
Okay, Doc Holliday, I will reach out to you and see if we can bring you on the first week in April, because I do know this season is going to be wrapping up probably by the first week in April. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I just think that a part of our learning as women also needs to deal with our safety, and that we shouldn't take that for granted. Like, I joke about this. I got I would say my self-defense training from somebody really famous, but that's because I grew up with him, and it was a hood thing. It was like, you better know how to fight. You better learn how to do this, or you're gonna get your butt kicked every day. It wasn't like a fun thing, like, oh yeah, I want to learn self-defense. Yeah, I'm interested. I want to compete. No, it was, when you go out your house, you better know how to fight. Or if not, you're gonna get your butt kicked every day, or you're gonna get your stuff taken every single day that you don't stand up for yourself. So it wasn't a I just want my child to learn this kind of thing. It was like, no, you're gonna learn how to fight, because if you don't, you're gonna get beat up every day. And that was a time we grew up in, and living in Miami, South Florida, 1980s, during the height of the drug war that Reagan was presenting against Black people. Because when I say drug war, I'm not talking about what was happening in the community. More so, I'm talking about the war that was happening on Black people under the guise of the term drug war. Because it was really like invasion of your home, invasion of privacy, tearing up your stuff, tearing up your house, tearing up your car, under the quote unquote suspicion that you might have drugs. But no, they were just going through Black neighborhoods and tearing stuff up. That's pretty much what's going on. Tearing up auntie house, tearing up your grandma's house. Yeah. But America thought it was the greatest thing ever. I'm like, no. You're tearing up Big Mama's house, and there's no drugs here.
Well, okay, now let's go back to who is America.
Yeah.
original. You know, it
Well,
wasn't happening to them.
America Inc. America Inc. We'll
Yeah,
just
America
we'll
Inc.
put it there.
Yeah, it wasn't happening to them. So
Yeah. Final thoughts, Pastor Ben. I know we kind of veered off a little bit. Final thoughts.
yeah, it's good. Listen, you women really made some great contributions. We've learned that you all have been some of the greatest leaders, some of the greatest inventions, greatest artists, singers, musicians, dancers. You learned all that this month. And more. I started to say greatest mothers, but you're supposed to be, you know. So, man, I don't know what to end with because of that. I mean, it's like you guys are awesome.
I think I have awesome. I think I have something I want to end with. Let me sign off for my anchor viewers so I can get to what I want to visually show you guys. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host tonight, Shantae Charles. I hope that you have a great and wonderful evening, and Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow. Had to stop that. I think I have the perfect picture for us to end with. Let's see if it's still in my stories. View story. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to hold it down so you guys can see it. You see that?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That explains everything.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Makes it very clear. Yes. Yeah. This is Fannie Lou Hamer's America's page. It's the official page that still keeps the record of Fannie Lou Hamer's works and contributions. And they put this picture up, and I just had to share it. And it says, "Real Patriots." And she put down here, the backbone of the American family. I say, yeah, the backbone of the American family, everybody family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people were angered by that picture because they were like, yeah, but she was often unavailable for her own family. You know, the women that were the caretakers of white children often were unavailable for their own families. And so, yeah, we have been doing this for a long time with very little thanks. I would say very little thanks on a global scale. There's been pockets of appreciation here and there, but definitely give the women in your life their roses. You have an entire month to do something for the women in your life. It's Women's History Month. If they bore you children, they have already made history, your family history, by giving you children. That's Women's History Month. They don't have to send somebody to the moon and calculate and get them up there and back for them to make history. Black women are making history every single day. You got a Meemaw, you got a grandma, you got a big mama still alive. Oh, I wish. Both of my grandmothers are no longer here, but they impacted and made history through their lives. And I try to do my best to live up to their standards and the examples that they've already set for me. So that's one thing that I try to do in terms of keeping their legacy alive. So Pastor Ben, I thank you for your insights on tonight. This platform is always open for discussion. So if you're watching us on the replay, or even if you're watching us live, don't feel like you can't come in and have a conversation here. I will always be respectful to you and to hear your voice and to hear your input. We are always having the conversation on IG, Daring Dialogue. So for those of you who are listening on YouTube, you can always hop on over when it's discussion time onto our IG, which is Daring Dialogues, and dialogue with us live. All right. So I'm going to be signing out in just a moment. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host tonight, Shantae Charles. Pastor Ben has been our regular volunteer co-host for many years now. So I want to thank you, Pastor Ben, for chiming in. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness. So continue to go out and be what?
Light.
Be light. Take care, everybody, and have a wonderful night. Take care.